A large share of the bottled water sold in America starts life in a municipal supply, the same pipes that feed the tap in your kitchen. That is not a rumor, and it is not a scandal. It is printed on the label, in language most people have never learned to read. When a bottler takes municipal water and treats it by distillation, reverse osmosis, or deionization, the result can legally be called purified water. If it comes from a public supply and is not treated to that standard, federal rules require the label to say so. Either way, the words on the front are accurate. They simply do not say the thing people assume they say. What people assume is a spring. Almost every bottle in the aisle is decorated with one. Mountains, glaciers, streams over stones. Very little of that imagery is a claim, because a picture cannot be a false statement in the way a sentence can, and the sentence on the back is doing something much more careful. 8 things about the bottled water aisle worth understanding, and 3 that genuinely hold up. Number 1 is not that bottled water is unsafe. It is that the thing being sold is almost never the thing being pictured. The usual note. This comes from federal labeling rules and standards of identity, the split in regulatory authority between agencies, and published research on contaminants. Bottled water is safe. It is essential in plenty of situations, and hydration matters. I am describing what the categories mean, not accusing anyone of a crime. Start with the 2 systems, because everything else follows from it. Tap water and bottled water are regulated by 2 different agencies under 2 different laws. Public tap water is overseen as a utility. Bottled water is overseen as a packaged food. The standards for contaminants are broadly aligned by law. The bottled limits are required to be at least as strict as the tap ones. But the surrounding machinery is not the same at all. A municipal system is required to test on a set schedule, often continuously for some measures, and to publish an annual report telling every customer what was found and at what level. That report is public, free, and searchable. A bottler tests its own product and is not required to publish those results to you at all. Some do so voluntarily, many do not. So the honest comparison is not that one is clean and the other is dirty. It is that one of them shows you its homework by law and the other does not have to. Number 8. The date on the bottle. Water does not expire. It has no shelf life in the ordinary sense. The date printed on a bottle of water refers to the container and its contents as a system. The plastic can affect taste over time, particularly if it has been stored warm or in sunlight, and carbonation can fade. Some states have required date marking on bottled water, which is part of why it appears at all. Treat it as a quality guide for flavor, not as a safety deadline. Water stored cool, dark and sealed is fine long after the printed date, which is the entire reason emergency supplies work. Number 7. Purified with minerals added for taste. You will see this phrase, or something close to it, on many of the largest brands. It is a description of a manufacturing process, and it tells you exactly what happened. Reverse osmosis or distillation strips water down to almost nothing. It removes contaminants, and it removes the dissolved minerals that give water flavor. The result tastes flat and faintly metallic to most people. So a small controlled amount of mineral salts is added back to make it taste like water again. The important words are for taste. The quantities involved are for flavor, not nutrition, and the marketing language around electrolytes tends to imply a benefit that the amounts cannot deliver. It is a perfectly good product, honestly described. It is just not a mineral water, and it is not doing anything for your electrolyte balance that a meal would not do far more effectively. Number 6. Alkaline, hydrogen, and structured water. This is the fastest growing corner of the aisle, and the one where the claims outrun the evidence most badly. Alkaline water has a higher pH than ordinary water, achieved either from mineral content or by an electrical process. The health claims attached to it run from better hydration to neutralizing acidity in the body. The basic problem is anatomy. Stomach acid sits at a pH low enough to neutralize alkaline water almost immediately on arrival, and the body regulates blood pH within an extremely narrow range using the lungs and kidneys regardless of what you drink. There is limited research in narrow niches, and no good evidence for the broad claims on the packaging. Hydrogen water and structured water sit further along the same spectrum, with even less behind them. None of it is dangerous. All of it is priced as though it does something, and for most people it is expensive ordinary water. Number 5. Spring, artesian, and mineral. These three actually mean something, which makes them the most useful words in the aisle. Spring water must come from an underground formation from which water flows naturally to the surface. It can be collected at the spring or through a borehole tapping the same formation, and must have the same composition as the natural flow. Artesian water comes from a confined aquifer under enough pressure that the water rises above the top of the aquifer on its own. Mineral water is the strictest of the three. It must come from a protected underground source, contain at least a defined minimum of dissolved solids, and the mineral content must be naturally present and constant, nothing added. That last requirement is why genuine mineral waters taste so different from one another and from purified water. You are tasting the rock the water moved through. Whether that is worth the price is a question of preference, but unlike most of this aisle, it is a real distinction backed by a real definition. Number 4. Microplastics. Research over the past several years has repeatedly found microplastic particles in bottled water, and more recent work using more sensitive techniques has found nanoplastics at counts far higher than earlier studies suggested. In many cases, substantially more than in tap water from the same regions. The honest position on this is that the health consequences are not yet established. The particles are there, they are measurable, and the research on what they do inside the body is at an early stage. Health authorities have generally said the evidence does not currently indicate a clear risk at the levels found, while calling for more research, exactly the sort of answer people find unsatisfying. What is not in dispute is the direction. Water packaged in plastic, capped with plastic, and opened by twisting that plastic, contains more plastic particles than water that never touched any. If this is a concern for you, the response is not a different brand, it is a different container. Number 3. Vitamin water and flavored water. This is the part of the aisle that has quietly stopped being water. Enhanced waters, vitamin waters, and flavored waters frequently contain added sugar, sometimes at levels comparable with a soft drink, and they sit on the shelf next to plain water with the same visual language. The tell is the nutrition panel, and specifically the serving size trick, covered in every aisle of this shop. A bottle that contains 2.5 servings shows its sugar per serving. The vitamins added are typically water-soluble ones the body excretes in excess, and they are cheap. None of this is hidden. It is on the label, in full. It is simply positioned in the section of the shop where people have decided in advance that everything is virtuous. Number 2. The gap between what you pay and what you get. Bottled water is one of the largest price multiples in the entire supermarket relative to the equivalent from a tap. Depending on where you live and what you buy, you may be paying hundreds to thousands of times more per liter for something that is chemically similar and, in many cases, originally from the same source. That comparison is not an argument that nobody should buy it. Convenience is real, portability is real, and there are places and moments where a sealed bottle is exactly the right answer. It is an argument for knowing the size of the multiple, because almost nobody does, and because the alternative costs almost nothing. Number 1. The source line. Every bottle carries a statement of where the water came from, and this is the single most informative thing on the package. It is also the smallest text on it, usually on the back, near the address of the bottler. Read it, and the aisle reorganizes itself. Some bottles name a specific spring and a location. Some say purified water from a municipal source. Some say purified drinking water with no source given, because the treatment applied means one is not required. The mountains on the front are unaffected by any of this, which is the point. Nothing about that is illegal, and none of it makes the water unsafe. But the entire premium in this aisle rests on an impression of origin, and the origin is written down in a font chosen to be read by nobody. 3 that hold up, a filter and a refillable bottle, beats almost everything in this aisle on cost, on plastic, and frequently on taste. If the objection to tap water is flavor, chlorine, mostly, a basic carbon filter removes it for a fraction of a cent per liter. That is the option the entire aisle is competing against, and it usually wins. Genuine mineral water is worth what it costs if you like it. It is a defined product with a protected source and a constant composition. It tastes of somewhere specific, and it is one of the few things here where the price buys a real difference rather than a picture, and bottled water where it belongs. Emergencies, travel, places where the tap supply is not safe or not trusted, and the many communities where that is a lived reality rather than a hypothetical. The category exists for good reasons. It is simply sold to everyone else on a different set of ideas. The pattern across all 8 is the same. There is very little deception in the bottled water aisle and an enormous amount of scenery. The words are regulated. The pictures are not. Read the source line, then decide what you are actually buying.